Now, in the previous chapter, we looked at the 5-kingdom classification. Of the 5 kingdoms, we have already studied the kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, and Plantae. Now we look at kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia is the largest kingdom in terms of diversity of species. It is divided into 9 phyla: Porifera, Coelenterata, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Chordata. In this chapter, we shall focus on Arthropoda and Chordata. The basis of animal classification include level of organization, symmetry, cell organization, nature of the body cavity or coelom, and notochord. Level of organization is the first basic fundamental feature that deals with the pattern of organization in an animal. There are 4 patterns of organization: cellular, tissue, organ, and organ system. Sponges exhibit a cellular level of organization where cells are loosely arranged. Coelentrates have a tissue level of organization where cells that perform the same function are arranged in tissues. Platyhelminths and other higher phyla exhibit an organ level of organization where the tissues are grouped to form organs and each organ performs a particular function. In the organ system level of organization, organs are associated with one another to form a functional system where each system performs a particular physiological function. The next basis of classification is symmetry. Animals' bodies can be asymmetrical, like in sponges, or have a radial symmetry, like coelentrates and echinoderms, meaning that all the halves of their bodies have the same design. Most animals, however, have bilateral symmetry, meaning that the left and right halves of the bodies have the same design. Cell organization is the next basis of classification. There are 2 types of cell organizations: diploblastic and triploblastic. In diploblastic organization, the germinal layers of cells consist of an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm. It is found in coelentrates. In triploblastic organization, a third germinal layer, the mesoderm, is found between the ectoderm and endoderm. It is found in all other phyla. The other feature used in classification is the nature of the coelom. The coelom is a body cavity lined by the mesoderm. Its presence or absence helps to classify animals. There are 3 categories: coelomates, acoelomates, and pseudocoelomates. Coelomates are animals that possess a body cavity, such as annelids, mollusks, arthropods, echinoderms, and chordates. Acoelomates have no body cavity, such as platyhelminths. Pseudocoelomates are animals that possess a pseudocoelom, such as nematodes. A pseudocoelom is a body cavity in which the mesoderm is not lined, but rather is scattered between the ectoderm and endoderm. Animals are also classified on the basis of segmentation. The most important feature of animal classification is the presence or absence of a notochord. A notochord is a rod-like structure that develops on the dorsal side during embryonic development. In some animals, this structure persists until adulthood. In vertebrates, the notochord is normally replaced by the vertebral column or the backbone at later stages of embryonic development. All animals that have a notochord, at least at some stage in their development, are called chordates and belong to the phylum Chordata. Having seen those features that form the basis of classification of the animal kingdom, let us look at the two phyla of interest, Arthropoda and Chordata. Phylum Arthropoda. Arthropoda means joint legs. The name comes from the Greek words arthron, which means joint, and podos, meaning foot. It is the largest phylum in the kingdom Animalia. Arthropods are bilaterally symmetrical, dented, triploblastic coelomate animals with a system level of organization. Their bodies are divided into the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. They have jointed appendages with a chitinous exoskeleton. Gaseous exchange occurs through gills, book gills, book lungs, or tracheal system. Arthropods have an open circulatory system in which blood flows through a tubular heart and body cavity or coelom. Excretion occurs through the Malpighian tubules. They possess sensory organs like antennae, simple and compound eyes, and statocysts. In arthropods, the sexes are separate and fertilization is internal. They are mostly oviparous with complete or incomplete metamorphosis. Members of phylum Arthropoda include spider, honeybee, prawns, and centipedes. Phylum Arthropoda is divided into 5 classes: Crustacea, Chilopoda, Diplopoda, Arachnida, and Insecta. Crustaceans include the crayfish, crab, and prawn. Most crustaceans are marine, but some live in fresh water. A few are found in most places on land. Their head and thorax are fused to form a cephalothorax. They have 2 pairs of antennae and 5 to 20 pairs of limbs which are modified for different functions, including locomotion, feeding, and defense. They have a pair of compound eyes, 3 pairs of mouth parts consisting of 1 pair of mandibles and 2 pairs of maxillae. Gaseous exchange in crustaceans occur through gills. Class Chilopoda comprises of the centipedes. Centipedes are carnivorous and terrestrial, mainly living in moist places. Their body is dorsoventrally flattened and is divided into 2 parts, the head and the trunk. The body is divided into 15 or more segments, with each segment having a pair of walking legs. The head has a pair of simple eyes and also a pair of antennae. They have poisonous claws on the head, which secrete a poisonous substance which is used to paralyze their prey. Gaseous exchange occurs through the tracheal system. Class Diplopoda comprises the millipedes. Members of the class Diplopoda have a cylindrical body. They have 3 body parts: the head, a short thorax consisting of 4 segments, and a body trunk. The body has between 9 to 100 segments, with each segment having a pair of walking legs except for the first thoracic segment. The head has a pair of short antennae and mandibles. They have 2 clumps of many simple eyes. Each body segment has a pair of spiracles for breathing. Millipedes have no poisonous claws. Members of class Arachnida include the spiders, scorpions, ticks, and mites. Their bodies have 2 parts, the cephalothorax and abdomen. The ventral side of the cephalothorax has 2 chelicerae, each having a claw-like structure, which produces a poison that paralyzes their prey. The cephalothorax also has 4 pairs of walking legs, each having 7 joints. Each leg ends in 2 toothed claws. Arachnids have no antennae. Instead, they have a pair of pedipalps which are short, jointed, and look like legs. Pedipalps are sensitive to touch. The cephalothorax commonly has 8 simple eyes. Most arachnids have lung books for gaseous exchange. In some, gill books or tracheal system are used. Members of the class Arachnida are carnivorous and are able to paralyze their prey using poison produced by the poisonous claws. Insects form half of the population of animals on Earth. They occupy nearly all habitats, be it in air, water, and land, and in all climatic regions on Earth. Insects' bodies are divided into 3 parts: head, thorax, and abdomen. The thorax is made up of 3 segments with 3 pairs of legs. These insects have 1 or 2 pairs of wings on the thorax. The head has 1 pair of antennae and a pair of compound eyes and several simple eyes. Their mouthparts consist of mandibles, maxilla, and labium. The abdomen is made up of 11 or fewer segments with terminal parts modified for reproduction. Gaseous exchange occurs through the tracheal system, while excretion is through the Malpighian tubules, which remove uric acid. Insects undergo complete or incomplete metamorphosis. So much for arthropods. Now we move to phylum Chordata. This phylum includes all animals with a notochord at least at some stage in their development. Phylum Chordata is divided into 5 classes: Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia. Pisces include all types of fish. Fish are cold-blooded animals in their aquatic habitats, moving by fins. They have a streamlined body that is covered with scales and have a lateral line for sensitivity. Gaseous exchange occurs through gills. They have a closed single circulatory system with a 2-chambered heart. They reproduce by laying eggs. The sexes are separate and fertilization is external. Some fish have skeletons made entirely of cartilage, such as sharks, and others have a bony skeleton, such as seahorses and flying fish. Amphibians include the salamanders, frogs, and toads. They are cold-blooded animals. They have well-developed limbs with longer and more muscular hind limbs for movement. They live on both land and in water. Amphibians have mucus glands on their skin and have no scales. Gaseous exchange occurs through gills in tadpoles, lungs, and skin. Their hearts are three-chambered with 2 atria and 1 ventricle. They have a double circulatory system. They reproduce by laying eggs, and fertilization is external. The sexes are separate. Reptiles include lizards, chameleons, flying lizards, snakes, crocodiles, and turtles. They are cold-blooded and are terrestrial animals. They have 4 limbs with 5 fingers or toes, and hence are called pentadactyl tetrapods. Reptiles have a scaly skin that resists desiccation. Gaseous exchange occurs through lungs. They have a 3-chambered heart, with the exception of the crocodile, which has a 4-chambered heart. Reptiles are egg-laying animals, and fertilization is internal. The eggs are laid on land. All birds, like the sparrow, penguin, and eagle, are aves. The mere presence of wings does not make an animal a bird. Bats and houseflies have wings, but are not birds. Animals are classified as birds only if they have feathers. Their 4 limbs are modified into wings with feathers and bear 3 clawless digits. Their hind limbs are strong and developed for walking or swimming. The legs have scales. Birds are warm-blooded and are arboreal inhabitants. Gaseous exchange in birds occurs through the lungs. They have a double circulatory system with a 4-chambered heart. Birds have beaks and hollow bones that make them light for flight. Fertilization is internal. The female lays yolky eggs with a calcareous shell. They also have an internal auditory meatus. Mammals include bear, camel, bat, dolphin, kangaroo, and humans. All mammals are warm-blooded. Their skins are covered with hair and have sweat glands and oil glands that regulate body temperature. This allows them to live in diverse habitats. Polar bears live in very cold areas. Camels live in very hot and dry regions, and dolphins live in the oceans. Mammals have mammary glands that produce milk to nurture their young ones. They also have 2 pairs of limbs and 1 pair of external ears or pinnae, along with different types of teeth to tear, bite, cut, and crush food. Gaseous exchange occurs through the lungs, and they have a 4-chambered heart. Fertilization is internal, and they bring forth live young ones in different modes. Platypus is an egg-laying mammal. Kangaroo gives birth to an underdeveloped young one, which is carried in the mother's abdominal pouch till maturity. Most mammals, however, give birth to live young ones. Parental care is highly developed in mammals. Now, that does it for the 5 kingdoms of classification. But there is one group of organisms that we need to discuss: viruses. Robert Whittaker's 5-kingdom classification did not take viruses into account. Viruses are cellular or subcellular organisms. Since only organisms with cell structures are regarded as living, viruses were not included in the classification because they were not considered true living beings. Viruses are non-cellular organisms that possess an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. When a virus infects a cell, it takes over the cell's machinery to replicate itself. In the process, the host cell is killed. Although a virus is inert outside the living cell, it cannot live independently without a host. Viruses are therefore known as obligate parasites. 1882, Dmitry Ivanovsky discovered the tobacco mosaic virus as the causative agent of the tobacco mosaic disease. This virus was smaller than a bacteria. A virus structure is basically a protein coat enclosing the genetic material, either DNA or RNA. It has no organelles. Now we look at identification of organisms using a dichotomous key. Now, this is a biological tool used for identifying unknown organisms up to some taxonomic level. From the prefix di, it means dividing into 2. It is constructed as a series of couplets of 2 contrasting statements describing the characteristics of a particular organism. To construct a dichotomous key, follow the following steps. 1. Create a list of physical features of the specimens provided. 2. Choose a trait that will divide the specimens into 2 groups, not necessarily equal groups. 3. Write 2 contrasting statements, 1A and 1B, for this trait. 4. Take group 1A and again choose a trait that will divide the specimens into 2 smaller groups. This means we have 2 contrasting statements, 2A and 2B. Continue with these steps until all the organisms in the first group are named. Repeat these steps for the second group.
So let's take an example. In this case, we have 6 organisms: tortoise, snake, spider, a chameleon, bat, and a honeybee.
First, we create a list of physical features. For example, we can have number of legs, presence of an exoskeleton, backbone, wings, scales, fur, and antennae. This should be enough. If need be, we shall add more. Next, we choose a trait that will divide the organisms into 2 groups, not necessarily equal groups. In this case, I can choose scales. Snake, tortoise, and chameleon have scales, the rest don't. So now, 1A with scales, and the contrasting statement B without scales. For each group A and B, we have 3 organisms, so we continue. First, we exhaust group 1A. Now definitely we will move to 2. So here we shall have go to 2. For group B, we first leave it because we don't know when we will exhaust all the organisms with scales. So number 2 is for those with scales. For those with scales, we again choose 2 contrasting statements that will split the group into 2. We can use legs, those with and those without. So 2A with legs and B without legs. Those with legs are 2, so it means we shall proceed to 3. So go to 3. Without legs, there's only one, snake. So 3 is for those with legs. There are 2 organisms, chameleon and tortoise. 2 contrasting statements that will identify each. We can use shell. So 3A with a shell, that will be tortoise. And B without a shell, that will be chameleon. So we have identified all the 3 organisms that fell under 1A, those with scales. It has taken us up to number 3. So for 1B, the organisms without scales, the next available number is 4. So go to 4.
So we go to 4A. We choose a trait that will split the spider, the honeybee, and the bat into 2 groups. We can use skeletons. So 4A with endoskeleton, there's only one, bat. For B with exoskeleton, there are 2 of them, so we say go to 5. For number 5, again we choose a trait that will define a spider and a honeybee. Number of legs will do. So 5A with 6 legs is a honeybee, and B with 8 legs is a spider. And this is our dichotomous key.
Now, sometimes you could have a dichotomous key and specimens provided, and what you need to do is to match the specimens with their names on the dichotomous key based on the descriptions of the characteristics, like we have here. So what you need to do is pick one item and focus on it. See the descriptions on the dichotomous key and see which ones describe it until the end. So let's pick one leaf. Let's do this one. We always start at number 1. So 1A, needle leaves. Has this one got needles? No. So we go to B, non-needle leaves. True. So we go across, it says go to 3. And we'll do just that. We come down to number 3. 3A, simple leaves, as in a single leaf. Ours looks like it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's not a simple leaf. So A is no. B, compound leaves, as in made up of leaflets. That's correct. We go across, it says go to 7. We come to number 7. 7A, leaflets attached at a single point. And it looks like all these are coming from right here. So yes, we go across. Chestnut. So this leaf belongs to the chestnut tree.